Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi again, everybody. It's your old pal, Mr. Ken Calvert, alongside the greatest guy on the planet Earth. I'm talking about Father Joe Grimaldi, and we would like to welcome you to the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. The Lincoln Spring Sales event is going on now at Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln. Shop online at starlincoln.com and take a virtual tour of their incredible 2021 lineup. The Aviator, the all-new Corsair, the Nautilus, the impressive Navigator. Want a sedan? Well, now's the time to make an incredible deal on the remaining 2020 Lincoln MKZs. Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln celebrating 50 years as the area's premier Lincoln dealer with service second to none, from an oil change to a major repair. Looking for a previously owned Lincoln? My friends, look no further than Hoot McInerney Star Lincoln. Call Star Lincoln 248-354-4900 for sales or service. Father Joe Grimaldi and I are both driving a Star Lincoln because, not unlike you, we receive the Star treatment. Simply head to starlincoln.com or call 248-354-4900. I have an interesting topic for you today, for us. I have a very good friend in radio, and I've been invited back to participate in a weekend which won't mean a lot to people. Classic rock, A to Z, and the decade of the 70s. Okay, so I was the perfect guy for them to call out of the bullpen, and by golly, by gosh, the uniform still fits, so I put it on and I did it. In talking with this great friend of mine from years back, he's still there, and when I was leaving the station 5 years ago, his son had a feeling that he was going to go into the priesthood. And I asked him yesterday how it was going, and he said, it's going great. It's going great. He's been, I don't know what sort of school he's attending, but it's in Wisconsin, and he's passed muster so far. And now he's gone before the bishop here in Detroit, and if he's accepted, he will go to Sacred Heart Seminary, where he will complete his studies. I had no idea that you had to, A, spend that much time in school, and then B, literally go before almost a board of experts to see if you qualify to even be admitted into Sacred Heart Seminary. And let me just add this, and then it's all yours. When we are in desperate need of priests here and around the country, it's all yours, sir.
Well, what I want to say is this fellow has probably finished his philosophy and now needs to do theology. And so this is why he's applying to Sacred Heart. I don't know what his connection to Detroit is, because I would think there would be other seminaries around Wisconsin somewhere.
It's his parents. They live here.
Oh, they live here?
Yes.
So he would like to be in the seminary here.
He would like to be home, yes.
Sure. And that makes sense. I could understand that. Okay, in order to go into a seminary today, first of all, the basic recommendations, that's a given. You need a letter from your pastor to say that, well, you're actively involved in the church, at least in some way. You need to have your birth certificate, your baptismal certificate. Actually, all of those certificates that we need for a Catholic marriage, anyway, you would have to have for the seminary. But then there's the other thing, too. Because of what's happened in the church since the year 2000, the people in general are extremely careful, very careful. Forever, when somebody wanted to go into the seminary, they would have to visit one or two psychologists. The psychologist will then do a report on that individual. And it was usually a pretty thorough report. And then you go through a committee where the committee might be made up of 3 to 6 people, and they evaluate you on a regular basis, but the first time is when you first enter the seminary. And what are they looking for? Well, they're looking for the way people interact with others. Is this a normal kind of individual? Is he a recluse? Is he someone who takes this lightly and all of that? They want to see what his presence is all about and how does he deal with people. Also, how does he deal with problems, okay? If he's a hothead, and I relate to that sometimes, but if somebody does something wrong and all of a sudden he explodes like you wouldn't believe, well, they're going to be very cautious about that. But then, very important these days because of what happened from the year 2000 on, but it did happen way before that.
We're talking basically about discovery now from 2000 and what did happen, let's be honest about it, in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and so on. So, ergo, we're being very, very careful now in terms of our scrutiny of new candidates since 2000.
Particularly when it comes to homosexuality.
Of course.
But the thing is this they can't really say that publicly because homosexuality does not necessarily mean that that individual is a predator. But very often if somebody is homosexual, he's going to be drawn to young men. And so in a seminary, that's what you're dealing with is young men.
Yep.
And so it's a matter of people being very careful. Can this fellow go through the seminary without getting involved with other men in these same circumstances? Don't forget, the seminary is a special place. They're special places. You're dealing only with young men. Even the faculty, for the most part, is made up of men. However, again, people are very conscious, so there's more diversity. You have women, you have married men, you have married women who are involved in the training of seminarians, so that it's no longer just the monsignors who would do all the teaching and did all that. So because anybody who is qualified can get a degree in theology. So they're going to be careful about the sexuality of the individuals and also to what is he drawn in regular life. Now, as I say, it may be nothing at all, but it could be problematic. So, yes, to answer your question, I think they are being extra careful, but they have to be. All you have to do is look at some of the dioceses who have expended, well, one diocese in California, over $600 million. To me, that's mind-boggling that you would have to pay for the wrongdoings of priests. And it's interesting that very often people say, that's the money that could have been used for the poor, that could have been used. Mm-hmm. But however, the church has to pay it.
Right.
And so that's not uncommon. I don't know what the amounts of money are that were spent from this diocese, which is the Archdiocese of Detroit, but I'm sure it's substantial. New York is the same way. We have a case on the East Coast where a seminarian, interesting, sued Cardinal Dolan and the whole Archdiocese because he was rejected from the seminary. And so he has a real axe to grind.
Right.
And so basically Dolan is standing up to what he believes, and so is the diocese. I think the case is being considered frivolous. If the case is frivolous, it's going to be dismissed. So I don't know what the final outcome was, but he was asked not to return, and so he's decided to not sue for $100, $1,000, but millions. Of course, people love to sue for millions.
Yeah, well, it's irreparable damage. It's altered my life forever.
Yeah.
And basically, you've destroyed my life.
Right. I wanted to be a priest. You wouldn't let me. All of this.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Oh, yeah, please.
Right. All right, a couple of things also. you were talking about seeing one or two psychologists.
Right.
And you're going to put on your best behavior during those interviews. I'm wondering how those psychologists all of a sudden determine you're a bit of a hothead, angst in you. Are you aware of the fact that you all of a sudden, I asked you a very simple question and you gave me a really detailed answer? You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you're being cross-examined by the examiner or the prosecution and the defense. You know, so
Yeah, but,
you're prosecuting your own case to be a priest, yet the psychologist is going to decide and push back a little bit to see where your hot buttons are.
Yeah, Ken, I know what you're saying, but by the same token, it's not just the recommendation of the psychologist.
Right.
It's a whole series of tests, psychological testing that is done. It's not just one test. Now, I'm not saying something that's recent. Probably it's more now. Yeah. I'm talking about what happened 50, 60 years ago. We were given tests, psychological tests, along with the interview with the psychologist, so that there's the psychologist's own opinion along with all of the results of the tests that the individual took. And so that's where they can determine, how should I put it, I don't think there's any perfect response, okay?
Right.
But they can determine that more than likely, this person needs further help psychologically, and therefore maybe it's good that he postpone his interest in the seminary life.
Yeah.
But the other thing is also very basic. What if the person doesn't have the ability to do the courses? So that would be one of the things they have to determine pretty early in life. This guy can't really pursue this. He has no other degree. He hasn't been able to pursue a degree. So how can we have him enter the seminary if he can't perform academically? So there is the academic aspect of it, the psychological aspect of it, and then there is something that's really very difficult to pinpoint, and that's the spiritual one. Where does the individual have the proper spiritual attitude? And so that I think whoever's making those decisions has to look at all of those things. Now, as a priest, I sat on several committees that evaluated people in the seminary. And one of the things we would do is look at the individual every year as he was going through, and then to determine whether or not he should move forward or say thanks but no thanks. Well, the one thing that I found, which I thought was unfair, and my own opinion, and I'm no expert, but if you accept somebody in the freshman year, and then again in the sophomore year, and then again in the junior year, and then say, I don't think you are fit to be a priest in the senior year, there's something wrong with the system.
Yep.
Because if that person was able to move forward without any problems for 3 years, now the fourth year you find that he's not suited. Well, I don't know about that. So I used to argue that point a lot. Unless somebody has some sort of a meltdown where, that you never really foresaw and he can't continue. But otherwise, all things being equal, if he's the same person that he was for the 3 years, why now? I would say you better make your decision in the first 2 years.
Yes.
So this way, I think you avoid the unfortunate shocker at the end of junior year and senior year.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. In fact, he stole my first and second question follow-up wise. I know for a fact, I'm not saying who my friend is. And
No.
But
we're not interested.
He's a dear friend, and he's very, very proud of his son. His son passed muster again. I hate to use that twice, but he spoke to his pastor, his pastor recommended him for the very first stages of it, whatever. What was the very first stage? He went to Wisconsin to go to college.
There's what they would do is have a time for what they call discernment.
Okay. Well, okay, so he's past discernment, and now he wants to fulfill. He's gone through the various. What am I trying to say?
He's done philosophy.
Well, he's also done. He's moved on now, and he's done his meetings with the bishop. Not one, not two, not three. And I think he's even taken a written exam or a couple of other things. But he's gone. He's now simply waiting for them to decide whether or not he can proceed on to Sacred Heart Seminary. And he went home and he said to his dad, I think I did well. I hope. We'll find out. And I thought, how in the world, young man wants to serve the Catholic Church as a priest and help out, and Lord knows we need the help. And I'm just wondering, I can't imagine that they would say no. So I'm counting on him to succeed and be a great addition, hopefully, to our area within 4 years. So
yeah, but Ken, let me give you an example that's similar but not the same. Similar in the sense that we're dealing with the academic world only, not the religious world. You have two people applying to Notre Dame. They have the same credentials, the same expertise in activities with sports and so on and so forth. One is rejected, the other is accepted.
Yeah.
I think there is a certain space where we can't really dictate that it's always going to be perfect and equal.
Right, I agree. I remember that. I remember that between Michigan and Michigan State, so many friends applied to Michigan first, and Michigan State. Michigan said yes to one and no to the other, so the other went to Michigan State, and it was always, their creds were identical, but one got in, one didn't.
Right.
And it's things like that make my brain spin and keep me the confused young man that I've been my entire life. So.
But then again, you have to realize that you have so many people applying. You want to give first choice to your own.
Yep.
So, in other words, if somebody has been through school here in Detroit, when I say Detroit, Michigan, let's say Michigan, you want to keep it within Michigan as much as possible. Yeah. But it's great to have variety. So if somebody is qualified from outside, why not add them to the list? Now, another point I want to bring out is the need for priests. And therefore, why not bend the rules? We need more priests. Yeah. Well, nowadays, you're really going to be at fault if you bend the rules. You know that presently in Lapeer, I believe, there is a priest who was ousted because of a discovery of something that happened 40 years ago, 30 years ago. I don't know all the details, but generally speaking. And the archbishop was sued. I don't know how he responded yet. And he was sued because of a lack of due diligence. Did he know about it? I don't know. Supposedly, the lawsuit says he should have known that this guy was problematic. And yet, they let him continue. Somebody found out, and they sued the diocese for allowing him to continue the ministry, even though he had been improper in his early days. So these things happen in all different ways. How much does the bishop really know?
Right.
Even if they've done all of these testings and psychological, if the guy has been good for 40 years, he messed up 40 years ago, well, today they won't let that go. There's no forgiveness on that, at least not when it comes to sexual activity.
Right.
So it's a very difficult thing to deal with, I believe.
I would believe it would be one of the most difficult things that the the bishop, the archbishop, or those that get involved in the process. Let me put it this way, and we can end with this.
Sure.
I wouldn't want that job. I wouldn't want to be a part of that committee, because I'm a guy that I can usually tell within 5 minutes if I like the person or I'm not going to like the person.
Right.
And I think it's, whoever said it right. First impressions are lasting impressions. So with that said, fabulous job. Thank you for explaining that to me.
I tried.
I know that, speaking of needing priests, this one across the way from me right now is exhausted due to the fact that you have probably put in more time this week servicing the church, and I just think that you ought to be commended for that. As a senior priest who is, quote, retired. I like the way they retire priests.
Well, I had 5 funerals in a row.
Wow.
In a row. When I say 5, it's because one on Saturday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So,
wow.
Anyway.
God bless you, my friend.
God bless you. Should we pray?
I'd like to do that.
Loving Creator, we asked you for strength, and you gave us difficulties to make us strong. We asked for wisdom, and you gave us problems to solve. We asked for prosperity, and you gave us purpose and brains to use. We asked for courage, and you gave us fears to overcome. We asked for patience, and you gave us situations where we were forced to wait. We asked for love, and you gave us troubled people to help. We asked for justice, and you called us to be just and lead with integrity. Lord, we have received nothing that we asked for or wanted, and yet we receive everything that we needed. For this we give you thanks. Amen. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe Podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.